Welcome back to the Roll Tide Rewind in 2025. We are back to break down LSU's offense. Be sure to check out our previous two videos on Ty Simpson and Alabama's run game, but we'll do LSU's offense today. We have Cole with me today. Ryan's at a high school game. James has now been confirmed to be in Virginia, and that's all I know. Parker is, I think, doing some stuff with his job, and then Zach is on Flight Simulator, currently going over Saudi Arabia, and we are here to break down some LSU offensive film. But Cole, how are you doing? How do you feel about the LSU offense?
Doing good, Thomas. The LSU offense is interesting. I came into this year thinking it was going to be one of the better ones in the SEC, and thus far, by every possible metric, it definitely has not been. They still have the talent, so hopefully they won't be able to put it together against Alabama, but they still scare me just because I think Nussmeier is a really good quarterback. I think their receivers are very good. I think Caden Durham out of the backfield is a good player. Harlem Berry is a true freshman, also a good player, but it just hasn't quite worked. So we'll see if they're able to put it together down the stretch, but so far they have not.
Yeah. And then also to mention, Brian Kelly has been fired.
Yep.
Joe Sloan has been fired. So they have a new head coach, interim offensive coordinator, Alex Atkins he was Florida State's offensive coordinator from 2022 to 2024. So a lot of new faces, but also that interim, mindset always kind of scares me for these games because as soon as the interim coach comes in, there's just a lot of energy. Think about UCLA against Penn State, totally different team. Now Penn State's now on the downhill trend, but that was pretty wild upset at the time. Let's go into their offense. Garrett Nussmeier coming into the year was a projected first-round pick. I think possibly that ship has probably sailed. He has just not looked that impressive. I have some of his throws in here that are pretty good throws. LSU, because of how their pressure is for their offensive line, we'll get into that on our next part of the video. But Nussmeier, they're doing a lot of short game, a lot of slants, a lot of out routes, a lot of long out routes. But Nussmeier can make a lot of throws on the field. This is a very impressive throw to the opposite boundary, hits it to where the receiver can get it. We'll see it on the replay here. Just beautiful ball placement. It kind of does linger a little bit, and the defensive back does have an opportunity here to almost make a play, but play gets made. We'll go to the next play here. Another kind of long throw, 15-yard out route here, and good ball placement by Garrett Nussmeier to give his receiver a chance to make a play. And we'll see here, this is one of my favorite plays from him. Gets pressured, steps up into the pocket, and delivers a very tight window throw to his receiver there, Barry and Brown, to make a great play. And we'll go into this next clip here. This is the thing about this next play is that this is not from this year. This is from last year. Because I want to talk about Nussmeier's deep ball. This is a pretty great ball placement here from Nussmeier. Hits Kyron Lacey, rest in peace, on a very great pass play there. And then this is from 3 years ago. I'm sorry, I know I'm pulling back a lot of footage here, but it just shows Nussmeier's potential. Look at the zip on that throw. I remember watching that throw live, and I thought wrongly at the time that LSU had been starting the wrong quarterback and that they should have been starting Nussmeier over Jaden Daniels. I have since been proven wrong. Jaden Daniels won the Heisman Trophy. But look at these throws. They're incredible. I couldn't help myself. It's not my fault. And just great ball placement. But then we'll go into this year. He has just not been the same quarterback. This is against Ole Miss. This is just one of many examples I could have used. But, just a duck. He has the receiver wide open. It ends up being a pass interference because he just underthrows the ball so badly. But I've been very, disappointed with Nussmeier this year. 7th in the SEC in yards per game. In the SEC, 15th in passer rating. There are 16 teams in the SEC. He is 15th in passer rating. In the whole country, 34th in QBR. So kind of you're hitting near middle of the pack when he was expected to be top 10. LSU was a preseason top 10 team, beat Clemson on the road. At the time, you thought it was a great win. Clemson has now showed their true selves. And, LSU just and their losses to Ole Miss wasn't close. Vanderbilt probably had a tight grip on that game. And then A&M just ran them out of the building, and the offense could not keep up for LSU. And another thing, they are one of 2 Power 4 schools to not score above 25 points, or at least 25 points in a Power 4 game. The other one is North Carolina. That is not good. That is not a good comparison.
It's an unbelievable stat, Thomas.
Unbelievable. But yeah, what is your opinion on the LSU offense and the games that you've been able to watch, Cole?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of puzzling, right? Because Brian Kelly has always had a good, for all his faults, he's always had a good offense. This LSU offense has been good since he's been there every single year. And it's just crazy that it's not good. Now, the one thing I want to mention with Garrett Nussmeier is that there are rumors that he's been playing the entire season banged up, and I think that's probably partially true. But at this point, we're what, 8 games into the season for LSU? When you gotta be healthy at some point, right? Like, it's just surprising to me. I kind of thought as he started a little bit slow, I was like, okay, he had an injury in the offseason. He's probably getting over it. He's going to look a little bit better, and it just hasn't really looked better. And it's really surprising. I think we're going to go into the offensive line probably later. I think the offensive line is a big part of it. I think he doesn't really have the time he's been used to in the past. But it's puzzling, I guess. And one of the things that worries me is they've got all the pieces. Like you mentioned, they could be hyped up for an interim head coach. They could be a new offensive coordinator could do this team wonders, because I think the offensive play calling has not been very good thus far this year. So and also if Nussmeier is hurt, having a week to recover with the bye week, I'm a little concerned that they could find themselves in this next game against us.
Yeah, we'll move on to the offensive line, like you were mentioning, Cole.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll just show some clips here, and I'll let Cole talk about like what LSU has lost here. But just on this play, gets pressured immediately and has to make a quick throw to the boundary, kind of duck throw there, but ends up being incomplete. And then A&M had their way against LSU. It was just not even close. Their tackles were getting beat consistently. A&M was able to get home a lot of times. We'll see it here, 3rd and 26. They're really rushing 3 and a spy, and Nussmeier has to kind of throw it away quickly. You see it here. This is his last play of the game, 4-man rush with a running back staying in, and still not close. And then we'll get into Alabama's pass rush in a second. But speaking on LSU, you were talking about how they have 4 different starting offensive linemen this year?
Yeah, so not just 4 different not just 4 different starters, Thomas. They had 4 different guys drafted into the NFL last year. So you knew there was going to be a step back, right? Obviously, Will Campbell is the first name you bring up. He was a top 5 pick to the Patriots, an absolute star at the college level. But then you also lose Emory Jones, the other tackle, who was a 3rd-round pick. Frazier at guard was a 5th-round pick, and then Garrett Dellinger as well was a 7th-round pick. So you lost 4 NFL draft caliber offensive linemen. So you knew it was going to be a step back. I don't think LSU fans were anticipating it would be this much of a step back.
Yeah, and we'll get into the Alabama portion of this. Alabama's pass rush, I feel like, has been pretty decent part of the team the past few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was very impressed with the Tennessee game. I think Aguilar had been sacked 4 times entering the game, and then Yanze Pierre by himself had 3 sacks in the Tennessee game, including this one on one of the opening drives. He also gets a safety that's ended up being a big play for Alabama in this game. And then, we've got a lot of improvement out of the pass rushers, whether it's Yanze Pierre or Justin Jefferson has proved himself to be a great blitzing linebacker, as you see here. Just a very aggressive tackle on Lenore Sellers here. Lenore Sellers got pressured a lot last Saturday. This may not have the most sacks to show for it, but Lenore Sellers is probably the best quarterback I've ever seen at breaking off a sack. I think if he goes to the NFL, that's one of the main reasons, besides the potential that he has, but he is the best quarterback I've seen at breaking out of a sack. And then also, I just wanted to mention his name. Keon Keeley is here. He is here. Ooh. He exists. And look at that play to end the game. But just I'm very, very impressed by Alabama's pass rush the past few weeks. And I think with how LSU has struggled offensive line-wise with the pass rush element that causes Nussmeier to maybe try to throw a ball very quickly, I think Alabama can take full advantage of that on Saturday, especially with blitzes too, especially like Deontay Lawson coming up the middle. He's been a good pass rusher as well. But what do you think of the pass rush lately?
Yeah, it's very interesting, right? Because we lose Quay Russaw, who most people, me included, thought was going to probably be our best pass rusher coming into the year. He's out, and then the pass rush has kind of ballooned since then and been very good. Yanze Pierre is the biggest reason why. He looks like a star. He looks like an easy NFL player. But Keon Keeley is another one. I think Keon Keeley right now, he's still kind of in a diminished role. I don't think we trust him against the run. I think he's only being used on obvious passing downs. But when he has been used, he's been pretty productive as a pass rusher. So I think this is definitely an area we can take advantage of LSU. I think LSU's tackles are by far the weakest part of their team. So I think if we can get some pressure off the edge, I think we can force Nussmeier into making some bad throws, especially with our secondary being as talented as it is.
Yeah. We'll move into the next part of LSU. Like Alabama, they struggle a lot with the run game, but LSU statistically is the worst rushing offense in the SEC. They are 16th out of 16 teams. We'll see here just against other teams, they just get blown up very easily. Caden Durham is their best running back, 378 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, which yards per carry wise, they are better than Alabama's running backs, whereas Jam Miller, Daniel Hill, and Kevin Riley are all under 4 yards per carry. Durham is almost at 5, and then Harlem Berry, like you mentioned earlier, he's almost at 5 as well. But they've had their instances of not being able to run the ball effectively, and that really stalemates their offense. Whenever their running game is off, they stalemate easily. But one thing that I was looking into that I saw that their interim coach, I think Frank Sloan is his name. I could be Frank Wilson is his name. Frankie Wilson, whatever it is. He mentioned that it's a possibility that Michael Van Buren, who is LSU's backup quarterback, and as you see right here, this is when he got to play against A&M, he has a chance to play in this game, and wrinkles is what he mentioned. And I think that's definitely interesting because he's a running quarterback. He can move in the pocket, and he's also would be used a lot in read option, redirection plays. And I think that with Alabama, how they struggled early in the year with Tommy Castellanos with read option play, I think LSU, I don't think Michael Van Buren will start. There's no confirmation with that right now. But they did say that he would probably be a likely candidate to play some. And I think that if he's going to play, that is one thing to watch out for is the read option game, because if he gets in wrinkles, that'll be a time where Alabama's defense, if they're not prepared for it, will be confused. And that'll be just a good, 5 to 6 yard run for LSU that maybe gets them a first down or, a more manageable third down. But Van Buren has SEC experience before. He started at Mississippi State all of last year. Mississippi State was just not a good football team last year. I'm not going to throw that all on Michael Van Buren, but he has starter experience, and he's a pretty good athlete in the open space. And I think with their run game being ineffective, I think using Van Buren is going to help their case even more. But same thing with Alabama. Running offense is not why they're going to win the game, but if their run offense is successful, that will open up their pass game. But as we see in these clips, their run offense is just it's a train wreck. Just like Alabama's, it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, their run offense is – and this one's one that was more – you could kind of see the writing on the wall with the rush offense coming into the year. They really had a shockingly bad rush offense for the last couple of years. It's just surprising being LSU, where you have this long list of former incredible NFL running backs that have come out of LSU. And I honestly, what's crazy about this run game is that I still think they have that. Like, I think Caden Durham and Harlem Berry are both going to be playing on Sundays. I think they're both very talented running backs, and you can see it even in the limited time from this year. LSU as a team, the craziest stat I think I've seen, LSU has 4 40-plus yard runs this year. So they're breaking these big plays. I really think this is almost 100% an offensive line issue. I think the offensive line is struggling. I think they're not creating many holes. I think we're seeing it on a lot of these plays here. But it's crazy to me that they have 2 very talented running backs, and yet they're unable to run the ball. So we'll see. It's definitely something where we need to limit the explosives. If we limit the explosives, I don't think they're going to be good on a down-to-down basis. But you can't give up the 50-yard runs. You can't give up a 56-yard run. You can't give up a 51-yard run, 48-yard run, 43-yard run. Each of these have happened this year. So we got to limit the big runs.
Yeah, the limit of the big runs will be huge, especially like Deshaun Bishop against Tennessee had a few plays where he broke free and they were able to score off of those drives. Well, since Alex Atkins is the new offensive coordinator for LSU for the rest of the year, he was Florida State's offensive coordinator from 2022 to 2024. 2022, they ended the year, I think, 10-3 with a Peach Bowl appearance, or not Peach Bowl, Cheez-It Bowl. That's the one I'm thinking of, is the Cheez-It Bowl. And then in 2023, Florida State, they went 12-0, and, Alabama was the worst person on earth because we made the playoff because Jordan Travis got hurt, which if Jordan Travis never got hurt, I think Florida State would have comfortably been in the playoff, which I don't think was a bad opinion to have. But with Florida State in 2023, they had 2 huge wide receivers. They had at the top here, His name is Donnie Wilson, I think was his name. Let me just
Johnny Wilson.
Johnny Wilson, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Wilson, and then they had Keon Coleman. Johnny Wilson was 6'7", and Keon Coleman is 6'5". But you can see here where Travis just puts the ball where his receiver with long arms can make a catch. And then you'll see here with Keon Coleman at the top of the screen, just kind of just throws it up, saying like, yeah, I mean, he'll probably make the play. And incredible catch by Keon Coleman. As much as the Florida State fans hate us and stuff, I thought this was a fun team to watch. They had a lot of good players. Florida State here against LSU, Keon Coleman just kind of trusting his receiver to make a play, just throws it up to your tall wide receiver. And then you'll see here with Johnny Wilson at the top of the screen, even with being 6'7", he was just so big that he's just hard to tackle. And with LSU's play calling in this game, I wonder how much they're going to use Tre'Davious Green. Here he is this year. He is LSU's tight end. He is 6'7", 21 catches, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns this year. But he's been used in a variety of ways on the slants, on just routes across the middle. But this is where I think his best attribute is. At the top of the screen, LSU has a quad at the bottom right to kind of distract the defense, and he's left one-on-one with a corner here who doesn't look like maybe 6'1"-ish. And this is an easy play for Nussmeier to have. Just throw it up to your tall receiver to make a play. And I think with situations, and you can see here he's going to be used on a motion there. But I think with situations, we're going to have to see probably Dijon Lee have to guard him a lot, just size for size, matching with this guy. But when he's playing at tight end, it's going to be hard to do that because if he's playing at tight end, just like right here, he's just going to sneak out of the backfield and be able to go down there and make a play, ends up scoring on this play right here. But matchup-wise, he's a nightmare. He's 6'7". If they get the ball to him, it's a jump ball. It's going to be hard to beat him. But he's not been – like he has 21 catches this year. He's not been used overly a lot. But in the South Carolina game especially, he was called upon to make a lot of plays. And in the A&M game, it didn't matter if he would have caught 10 passes. A&M was probably winning that game by 25 points or more. But what do you see in Tre'Davious Green and your time watching LSU this year, and how big of a difference maker could he be in this game?
Well, the first thing that sticks out to me about Tre'Davious Green is that Alabama basketball fans might remember he came in and played on the basketball team against Alabama this past year. He sat out the first half of the year, obviously, because it coincided with football season. I believe his first game back was against Alabama. He played pretty well. So if you've got a guy that's athletic and big enough to play on a Power 4 basketball team, Power 5, I guess, in basketball, you've got a really, really good athlete. And you can see it in some of these plays, man. He just straight up boxes out that South Carolina DB on that previous play. So it's going to be tough. Like you're going to have to, and you can't roll coverage to him because they've got talented receivers as well. Aaron Anderson, Barry Brown, 2 guys we may have mentioned earlier. So the linebackers, I think, are going to have to play well. They're going to have to be able to cover him. You mentioned Dijon Lee. I hope we can get Dijon Lee on him, but if you put Dijon Lee on a tight end, it means you've got a different corner covering their other receivers. So we'll have to see. I think he's a very, very talented guy. He plays like a basketball player, and that's very tough to deal with sometimes, especially when you don't have neither of our linebackers are particularly huge. So if they're in coverage, they're going to have to do everything they can to not get boxed out. I think the place where you're really going to see him potentially shine in this game is in the red zone. I think in the end zone especially, he's just so good at high pointing the football and just being bigger than the guy that's covering him. It's very hard to match up with a guy that size.
Yeah, at least he wasn't Corey Chest, who had 15 rebounds in the first half against Alabama last year.
Yes,
Alabama won the game though, but at least he didn't pull that stunt against us. Let's go into the last part of the video. We talked about Nussmeier's struggles. He's just made honestly a lot of bonehead plays this year that I've noticed. He's a gunslinger. That's what gunslingers will do, but sometimes you just got to shake your head. This is the first one against Ole Miss. I don't really know what he's doing here. He throws it into just triple coverage. You'll see it better here, but the safety kind of sneaks this one out. But when he throws this ball, look at where he's throwing it to this one right here. 1, 2, 3 guys are all converging on the ball, and both of his receivers are kind of out of the way. And you're just asking for a bad play to happen with there. Against South Carolina, he had 2 pretty bad throws. This is the first one. Pressure kind of gets to him, way overthrown, and it's going to be intercepted. Had the guy wide open, but pressure will cause him to make a mistake. And then we'll go into the next play here at the goal line too. He just guesses wrong. Here's the safety right here. He just guesses what the safety is going to do, and it's just wrong. Trey'Dez Green is going to run a slant right here. Safety just sees it all the way. And that kind of happened last year with Deontay Lawson right here in this play from LSU game last year. LSU drives down the field on their first drive, and he just kind of guesses wrong, and Deontay Lawson is right there to make a pick in the end zone. And then also we'll see this from the Alabama game last year, him getting pressured a little bit, kind of has to throw fast, and now the LSU receiver does fall down, but I think even with falling down, the ball still would have been over his head, and it was intercepted by Bray Hubbard. But even with all the great receivers they have, like Aaron Anderson, Barry Brown, Trey'Dez Green, when throws are being made like this, you're asking a lot out of your receivers to make a play, but also you're giving the defenses opportunities to make plays, where Alabama took advantage of that last year. Those 2 picks stalled drives, like especially the one at the goal line by Deontay Lawson. And then even thinking about how the defense has played this year, like at the end of the Tennessee game, or end of the first half of the Tennessee game, Xavier Brown's 99-yard pick 6 changes the whole game. Against South Carolina, our offense was stalemating all game. So a pick 6 that you had in the first quarter kind of carries on the rest of the game that Deshaun Jones had. And then a forced fumble inside South Carolina's 30-yard line with a minute 30 left obviously is a huge play to have. So Nussmeier, I think, will present opportunities for us, and Alabama's going to have to attack those opportunities because, this is a game where it's like not a potential look-ahead spot, because Oklahoma, especially if Oklahoma beats Tennessee this weekend and then Oklahoma has a bye week, Oklahoma's going to be a ranked matchup at home. This would become potentially a look-ahead spot for Alabama against a team that had just fired their coach, has an interim coach. And I think this is potentially like the trap game. I know it's weird to say this at this point of the year, because I think a lot of people were thinking, like, was Missouri the trap game? Was South Carolina going to be the trap game? I think LSU's the trap game. They're a preseason top 10 team, but it's now become the trap game for Alabama. And wondering how their defense, because the defense realistically has been the reason Alabama's won some of the games they've won. Against Georgia, Alabama's offense scored 0 points in the second half, and Alabama won the game. Against Vanderbilt scored 0 points in the second half. And then against, last week against South Carolina, pick 6, sacks, forced fumble. Like, the defense is the reason Alabama won the game last week. So is this going to have to be a game where the defense has to be asked to do a lot? And if so, are they going to be able to deliver is the big thing. What do you think about next week's game, Cole?
Yeah, I think it's hard to really say definitively what's going to happen. I think based on the first 8 games we've seen LSU play this year, you should think, this might be a walk in the park for the Alabama defense. But I think that would be unwise to think that, because they've got so many talented players on this team. This was looked at as potentially the best offense in the country coming into the year. And while the offensive line is a huge concern that I don't necessarily see getting fixed over the bye week, I think some of these other issues could get fixed. I think a new offensive coordinator, a new voice in the room could be a huge boon to this offense. And I think it's something where we could see Alabama potentially have some early struggles against an LSU team that we don't really have any tape on this version of LSU. They've got 2 weeks to prepare with a new offensive coordinator, a new head coach. We don't know what's going to happen. So hopefully the team's able to settle down. The defense has been very good this year, especially against the pass. I worry about, I don't think LSU is going to have a very effective run game outside of potentially a long run or 2. So it's going to really come down to these corners that have been, I think, the stars of the show for Alabama so far this year. So we'll see if they're able to win their one-on-one matchups against these talented LSU receivers. And we'll see if Garrett Nussmeier is going to look more like 2024 Garrett Nussmeier or 2025 Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, I think a player that may make an impact to this game, he's played a little bit, is Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. I think he's been, and he and Zay Mincy have both been getting some playing time. And I think with these receivers probably having to rotate in and out, and also Red Morgan played a little bit in the South Carolina game, I think playing some of the guys that maybe haven't played as much this year, maybe they're the ones coming in, maybe to give the other guys a break because they're so tired with chasing these receivers, that they're going to be a big part in this game. But especially Dijon Lee. Dijon Lee would be my X factor in this game. I think he's been really good. And I think if he's matched up with Trey'Dez Green, that's going to be a matchup to watch, especially since he's a 6'4" corner. But I kind of think to add
is Yanze Pierre. I think if we can get pressure, I think we can force Nussmeier into some bad decision, potentially have him turn the ball over.
Yeah, that's a good one, Yonsei Pierre. Pass rush being a big deal. But I got nothing else to add. Do you have anything else to add, Cole?
Nope, nothing else for me.
All righty. Well, we will go into this will be released on Sunday, going into the week of the LSU game. But hopefully Alabama's defense, like I said, has it together, and we're able to limit LSU's offense to being explosive, especially since they haven't really been all year, haven't gotten to 25 points in a Power 4 game. Hopefully this isn't the first time. Hopefully we keep that streak going. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their week, and roll Tide.
Roll Tide.